job one for me in terms of being here today is a sincere thank you to the municipalities here and all the municipalities who have engaged in the effort to deal with stormwater pollution. Stormwater pollution is one of the thorniest issues we deal with as a state. It's a lot easier to control something coming out the end of the pipe, but over the last 100 years, for a lot of very good reasons, we've done a lot of paving, and we've created a lot of sidewalks and created a lot of impervious surfaces, so that when it does rain, that rainwater hits those surfaces and ultimately collects all of the pollution, sediment on those surfaces and runs off into our rivers and streams. We've had programs over the course of several years now to deal with this through education and outreach and a number of other programs, but this year is the first time we're requiring 950 of our municipalities across the state to develop more specific plans. And here in the Bay watershed in particular, we're going to see pollution reduction plans submitted by boroughs and townships like those in cities like those here today that will result in a 10% reduction in sediment entering our rivers and streams over the next 5 years. We at the department have tried to support that effort in a number of ways, primarily through training. We've done 75 events, 75 training events over the course of the last year or so in 18 different counties across the state, in addition to some electronic trainings and other outreach that we've done. We've also been out to individual municipalities, individual counties, to do events at their request and try to be responsive. We have some limited resources available to actually fund fund efforts available through some EPA funding. So we encourage townships to apply for that. And we've had a good partner in Penvest in terms of attempting. I apologize, the sun's very bright. I'm tearing a little bit. I get very emotional about stormwater, that's what's going on here. A good partner with Penvest in terms of working with municipalities on how we resolve the municipal separate stormwater systems issues that we have across the state. We have very good partnership with DCNR as well through this effort. DCNR providing funding in order to install some of the green infrastructure, the likes of which we'll see here today, here in Lemoyne. So I want to thank Lemoyne for hosting us, thank all the other municipalities for their participation, and in particular recognize we have some municipalities across the state that have really cooperated in this effort. So I was up about a month ago in Wyoming Valley, where they've coordinated over 30 municipalities to resolve their stormwater issues. York County's engaged in a similar effort. Chester County engaged in a similar effort in order to seek opportunities to both deal with our stormwater issues, but also reduce the costs for dealing with those stormwater issues. So I want to thank all of you. You can expect we'll be going through these plans, trying not just for the compliance end of it, but also to identify where is that innovation, where are those best management practices, so we can be communicating across our boundaries, across our borders. One of the things that I've said a few times is stormwater issues are not something that follow municipal boundaries. So figuring out how we can cooperate across boundaries as a state to deal with these issues is critically important, not just within the Chesapeake Bay, but to resolve all of our water issues going forward.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming here and attending. Mr. Secretary, thank you. After all these words, what's there left to say? Well, what I would like to point out is what we have done here in Lemoyne. And the rain gardens, there's 18 of them out here in Market Street, and the planning began over 10 years ago. We began the building of the rain gardens about 8 years, so they've been here 8 years, and they're doing exactly what they should be doing. If you look up here and you see the yellow truck, that's our master gardener that helps out Lemoyne taking care of the plantings here. And we certainly want to thank them. This could not have been done with just Lemoyne. We'd like to thank the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, all the Penn State Master Gardeners. When we began this project, we had over 4 Master Gardeners coming in and giving their time and helping us with the foliage and picking it out for the rain gardens. We'd like to thank the Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts, it becomes their projects to help in the cleaning and the maintaining of the gardens. The citizens of Lemoyne, we could not get along without the citizens of Lemoyne. What do? As you walk the gardens, you're going to see little name tags. They've put their money into purchasing the plants and maintaining whatever parts of the rain gardens they have adopted. Norfolk and Southern Railroad has nothing to do with the rain gardens, but it has to do with the stormwater project. You look up here to my left, and that's the hill. We call that the hill. In the rain events, what happens? All that water comes down, passes over the parking lots, and the railroads are here to my right, and that's where it ends up. And Norfolk and Southern has definitely helped us out in putting temporary railroad grade crossings so our trucks could come in and take care of, because that water follows the railroad tracks into the Susquehanna River. Give you an idea what, we talk about the private and government partnership. Members First, what they did when they built a branch here at 10th and Lemoyne, they put an underground retaining tank in, spent their own money. It was not a requirement, but being good stewards of the environment and the clean water that we all want, they have a whole underground tank system of taking the water in as it comes off the impervious surface and then letting it, if you would, get into the ground at a slower rate. One of the projects that we're wanted to begin, we were going to begin it this year, and we're just talking around, and I'll throw this out for the people that are from the surrounding municipalities. We'd like to hold a meeting with you, spend a few minutes what each of you are doing, and then let's enter into a joint project together that helps out for when we need the limited funding from the grants. But I believe as a community, because when you think about it, we have Camp Hill, some of their water passes through us. We have Lower Allen, some of our water goes there. We have Wormleysburg, some of our small stream water enters Wormleysburg. So we need to join together and joint projects. So again, I'd like to thank you all for coming. And when we are done, if you would, feel free to tour the gardens here. Right off here to my rear is a sign talks about the gardens and the citizens. What the rain gardens do, it shows the citizens what a rain garden is. It isn't something you got to spend tons of money on. You just something to slow down the water, and so it can enter the ground rather than washing directly into the streets and into the streams here. So thank you on our Clean Water Project. Thank you for attending.
On behalf of the board and the crew at Capital Region Water, I want to thank you to our hosts and DEP for allowing me the time to shine a light on this partnership that will benefit our customers and other cities across the state. For those of you who don't know, Capital Region Water is responsible for drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater in the city of Harrisburg and surrounding area. Our stormwater service area encompasses the city of Harrisburg proper, our state's capital city, split between 8 square miles of combined sewer system and 3 square miles of separate storm sewer. As stewards of our community's water infrastructure, it's our duty to protect public health, protect the environment, and to support our local economy in the most cost-effective manner. It's that simple, right? Well, as an engineer, I'd love to go into how CRW is meeting DEP and EPA's requirements for the NPDES permit for our CSOs and MS4s using BMPs and GSI. Thank you, yes. But I wanted to highlight just one thing today, and that's the value of partnerships. This partnership we have with Susquehanna Township and Lower Paxton Township, as facilitated by the Department of Environmental Protection and potentially funded through DCNR in the future, as an example of what we need to do more of in Pennsylvania. Stormwater is a problem in urban, suburban, and rural communities across the country and the state of Pennsylvania. From pollution harmful to aquatic life to property damage from flash flooding, it's a problem that needs to be addressed. And it's a problem indifferent to municipal boundaries, as everyone has noted here today. We could focus on what's required of us individually, meeting permits for, in our case, the city of Harrisburg, by building stormwater management facilities in highly developed areas. Instead, thanks to our partners, we're taking a watershed or regional approach that will meet our individual pollution reduction goals in the most cost-efficient manner. A message to our customers of Capital Region Water. Through this partnership, we're able to reduce pollution in Paxton Creek and meet our permit requirements for less money than if we went it alone. And a message to the over 2,000 cities, boroughs, townships, and municipalities in Pennsylvania. Stormwater doesn't matter if it's your property or your neighbor's property. It doesn't matter if it's your borough's property or the neighboring townships. So I urge you, if you haven't already, consider reaching across that invisible barrier to your neighbor and discuss ways in which you can address your shared stormwater problems together for the benefits of your residents, businesses, and constituencies. With that, again, I want to thank the Department of Environmental Protection for facilitating this partnership, and to the leadership of Lower Paxton and Susquehanna Townships for their willingness to work with us to best serve our ratepayers and theirs, as together we steward our community's water systems from raindrop to river.
I'm very proud to at least briefly detail Lower Paxton Township's stormwater efforts and environmental stewardship. The Board of Supervisors in Lower Paxton Township has made great strides with not only stormwater but its overall environmental activities in recent years. Currently, we are working in partnership with my fellow executives at Susquehanna Township and Capital Region Water to develop a Paxton Creek plan to address sediment. And all three of our municipalities are required to address a 35% limit on sediment within the Paxton Creek. Lower Paxton Township itself is working to submit its NPDES permit by the required deadline of September 16th. And as part of that permit, we will not only be submitting our Paxton Creek TMDL plan, but our Chesapeake Bay pollution reduction plan. Those are the technical aspects of our program, but our program is in place right now, and it is, in my mind, massive. We are a community of 28 square miles and 50,000 people. This past year, we will be spending $3 million on stormwater rehabilitation, improvements of facilities, improving our drainage network. This coming Tuesday night, we will be having a meeting with neighborhood residents on a stream channel restoration project, which will restore, hopefully, about a half a mile of lineal footage on a tributary to Paxton Creek, which is a project identified in our Paxton Creek TMDL plan. But environmental stewardship and projects don't always necessarily have to be big expenditure items. At our municipal facility in Lower Paxton Township, a group of Girl Scouts just installed a rain garden, very similar to what you see in front of you here today in Lemoyne. It was a community project, and one that has met with not only an educational aspect with the girls themselves, but also a project that benefits Lower Paxton Township employees in that in this rain garden, they have a place to go to eat lunch and relax during stressful times, which we do have at the municipal level.
I'd like to thank the Secretary for his support and his efforts, the Department of Environmental Protection and DCNR for their support of local government in our efforts to address our varied environmental challenges and obligations. The effective management of stormwater is one of our most important responsibilities that we as local government have been charged with. It relates specifically to local government's central responsibility, that being the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of our constituencies. Failure to effectively manage stormwater presents real problems. Problems such as flooding of our transportation networks, the potential for damage to property, erosion in our streams and creeks, and the introduction of pollutants into our drainage systems and ultimately into our water bodies. Ensuring the effective management of stormwater is a responsibility that we in these communities that are represented today take seriously. With that said, it's not an easy task to accomplish. It requires cooperation. It requires community response. Many of the challenges that we in these communities that are here today face relate specifically to the time period in which these communities were urbanized. Many of the issues that we're dealing with today are issues that were created largely in the 1970s and 1980s, a time when philosophies and perspectives and approaches were quite different from our approaches, our philosophies and perspectives of today. Most of our work relates to the need to retrofit and the need to replace infrastructure, as I said, from the 1970s and 1980s. The efforts of Susquehanna Township, Lower Paxton Township, and Capital Region Water in the development and soon-to-be implementation of our joint pollution reduction plan recognizes and confronts the very real challenges that we face related to stormwater. The efforts are fundamentally informed by our collective recognition of the fact that stormwater and watersheds don't recognize municipal boundaries, as the Secretary had noted. That together, through the leveraging of our collective resources, that we have a better chance for success. Again, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and once again, I thank the Department of Environmental Protection and DCNR for their support with these efforts as we continue to work together collectively to ensure a more prosperous and environmentally beneficial future for our communities. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Secretary McDonnell, for giving DCNR an opportunity to be here today to discuss how DCNR can partner with your agency and other municipalities and nonprofits to improve water quality. GI can be thought as a natural and semi-natural system that manages stormwater runoff by slowing the rate of flow and filtering out those harmful pollutants before they drain into our beautiful waterways in the Commonwealth. Commonly used types of mechanisms of green infrastructure referred to as best management practice, which the Secretary referred to earlier. Where appropriate, DEP encourages municipalities to utilize BMPs to meet the regulatory requirements for MS4 permits. Because most municipal park and trail and waterways are publicly owned, it's low-hanging fruit to put those BMPs in those places. So what sorts of green infrastructure and BMPs does DCNR support through our grant program? So let's think about that. When you think of a park, let's think of the recreation fields. Let's think of basketball and tennis courts. Instead of asphalt, we have porous asphalt. That slows the water down. It puts it below. We have parking lots in our parks. We have we have alleyways. We have access roads. What can we do there? We can plant trees. We can put infiltration basins, as well as drainage areas and storage tanks that we can collect water temporarily and then use it to integrate our athletic fields in the parks. In our wetlands and waterways and green spaces, what an excellent opportunity where we can enhance riparian areas and use one of the best BMPs, cost efficient, and that is tree plantings and native plants. And we can expand those riparian areas that can not only clean that water, but mitigate some of the flooding that we've had through these great storm events in recent years. With our trails and pathways, we can put porous asphalt and tree and native plantings and bioswales. And finally, as I see across the street, there's an educational signage on what are all these rain gardens. Well, in our parks, we're interested in educating the public about riparian areas, about the importance of pollinator gardens. What is green infrastructure? We want to put that in that educational signage. So what are some examples in the Commonwealth where we funded recreation park development projects that integrated these BMPs? So my friend is here from Capital Region Water, and most recently we've partnered with Capital Region Water and the city of Harrisburg, and we've set aside funding to improve and rehabilitate 5 tot lots within the city. And that's going to happen. They're going to be built in the spring of 2018. We're very excited to partner with them on that. In the York County Heritage Rail Trail, how many have been on that fabulous trail? Okay, we've partnered with Penvest So Penvest is interested in mitigating some of the stormwater that goes into Cadorus Creek. So we've done and partnered with them to use green infrastructure in the pathways and the alleyways to the parking lots. And then DCNR has funded the actual trail. So Wrightsville Borough Riverfront Park, we have partnered with them and other county sources to rehabilitate their riverfront park and put in some playground equipment, and underneath use some B&Bs to mitigate some of the stormwater. Lancaster City, wow, what a gem. So Lancaster City, we've partnered with Penvest on several parks in improving their accessibility, improving their play areas, and making them safe. And Penvest has funded the underground green infrastructure elements. And also, I give a shout out to Coleman Park, City of Lebanon, where we have greened up their amphitheater. We have taken away some of the asphalt, put in tree plantings. We've made it incorporated a lot more shade and made it a lot more cooler and attractive for music in the park in that area. So, why should we support green infrastructure and B&Ps in our parks and public areas? There are multiple benefits for this. Number one, they enhance the recreation value. They provide recreation opportunities for a diversity of interests. So let's say you're a soccer mom. You're there, okay, your kid's playing soccer. I'm a soccer mom. But you want to walk while they're playing soccer, and you want to walk on a trail, and you want to go birding. So if we enhance the waterway in that park, again, dual benefits. We create attractive park features. I was just talking to somebody earlier about how beautiful this street is. And it's beautiful because of the trees and the native plantings. It looks robust, it looks attractive to communities. We create and enhance social and environmental equity. And what I mean by that is most urban parks and most people that live in urban environments have very little access to green spaces. So when we revitalize parks, such as the one we're going to do in Harrisburg, we are providing opportunity for everybody to have access to green spaces, to have places to see butterflies, to places to see bees, to places to see birds and interact with an environment. And we have the public educational benefit. And what DEP, our partners, are most interested in is we can improve water quality and improve the drainage to minimize storm events and flooding. In addition to these benefits, DCNR is very interested in three. One, we're interested in reducing the flooding after a stormwater event in recreation areas. When you think about it, there's a park, Raffo Park, and they have a soccer field and they have a waterway through it. Well, that waterway was flooding. And they installed, through a partnership with Land Studies and other agencies, they installed some measures in the park, in the stream, to mitigate it, to make it more natural and slow down the flow of that water. And guess what? The soccer fields don't flood anymore. So again, dual benefits. DCNR is also interested in leveraging funding with other agencies such as DEP, Penvest, and other EPA and other federal agencies and organizations to meet DCNR's grant requirement of a 50% match. So we want to help communities like Lemoyne and other boroughs and communities that don't have as many resources, such as the city of Harrisburg, to holistically revitalize their parks through partnerships with other agencies. In conclusion, DCNR is excited to support green infrastructure and B&Ps in parks through our grant program. And in so doing, we are supporting DEP and local municipalities with their efforts to clean up the waterways in the beautiful Commonwealth area. Thank you.